Even with the offseason acquisitions that brought tons of new talent to the defensive side of the ball, on today's episode, we're going to talk about the biggest questions still facing the Chicago Bears defense heading into the 2023 season. We're going to get to all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host here, Haize. You can follow the channel right off the top if you choose to do so at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform that we happen to be on. But let's go ahead and talk about it. We are still in the dead days of summer, leading into training camp to where everything's going to start picking up. Preseason is right around the corner as well. And once that thing start happening, of course, news, analysis, everything will start picking up. But we still are facing tons of, questions and, hoping to see certain things on the field, position battles ahead in training camp as well. And while we've already talked about the biggest question still facing the Chicago Bears offense, on today's episode, I want to talk about the biggest question still facing the defensive side of the ball for the Chicago Bears. And we're going to start off with one of the biggest question marks. Is Jaylon Johnson going to be ready to go? How much has Jaylon Johnson meaningfully improved, and is he going to be ready in a contract year to maybe solidify him getting another contract with the Chicago Bears? You guys know I'm kind of 50-50 on when it comes to Jaylon Johnson and his long-term projections with the Bears. I think even when you look at, Tyreek Stevenson coming in and Terrell Smith and other, players that they've brought in now that could be on the lookout to kind of take that. C-Dub has already said that he sees Terrell Smith as being a player that takes Jaylon Johnson's position before the end of the season. Now, I'm not there, right? I want to be clear there. I am not there yet. I do think that Jaylon Johnson needs to improve his man-to-man defense and coverage in that area, but it's absolutely one of the bigger questions as well. And then with another veteran, is Eddie Jackson going to come back, respond from injury, and still give the Chicago Bears a Pro Bowl level season, right? I really do think Eddie Jackson was on the path for a Pro Bowl season last year before injury. And I do think that when you look at the overall youth, the new energy, the new coordinator, the new team, the new front office, everything that came in to the Chicago Bears, it kind of reinvigorated Eddie Jackson in a way. And I do think that, if he maintains that same energy, if he maintains that same production, it's going to make the Chicago Bears defense so much better. But with that being said, overall, the biggest question probably for the Chicago Bears, especially national media wide and by most Bears fans, is, are the Bears going to be able to get to the quarterback? Can they put pressure on the quarterback in the 2023 season? We were at the bottom of the league at sacks. We were at the bottom of the league of QB pressures. That was one of the biggest things that stood out with the Chicago Bears defense negatively last season. And that is a huge question. When you look at the acquisitions that we made of Andrew Billings, when you look at bringing in Walker, right, and what he could potentially bring and get into the quarterback, and then the new defensive tackles, Javon Dexter, Zach Pickens, right? And, Javon Dexter, some people have said that they do see him taking that starting position from Justin Jones. And, hey, if he does it, he does it. Justin Jones was our best defensive lineman last season, but overall defensive line didn't do much a goddamn thing last season. So that's not really saying much. But, are the Bears going to be able to put pressure on the quarterback, right? And, how much we get to the quarterback is really going to help our pass protection. The pass protection, which was pretty solid last season, but our pass rush, our run defense, terrible, right? And so are those areas going to prove, are the biggest negatives from the Chicago Bears defense last season going to improve in a meaningful way in 2023? And how much does that also help the Chicago Bears, right? We added a really good coverage linebacker in Tremaine Edmonds. We added TJ Edwards, who's just a dog who's going to be able to do some things. But overall, it comes down to that defensive line. And are we going to have enough talent and pressure coming from the edge in Walker and Travis Gibson as our projected starting defensive ends? Are they going to help get to the quarterback enough and get that pressure where it's going to help our pass coverage? And I already talked about that defensive tackle position. The 3-tech and pressure from the interior defensive line is one of the most important things in Matt Eberflus's defensive scheme and system. We look to improve that with Billings. We hope that Justin Jones, with better talent, is overall going to improve, right? But also the rookies, Javon Dexter, Zach Pickens, they have to perform. And they're really kind of coming into a situation where we're going to need them, even if they just are used as depth pieces in their rookie years, and they don't, and Javon Dexter doesn't necessarily take over that starting tackle position, their roles are still going to be dramatically needed for the Chicago Bears. And then also, Dominique Robinson, who showed some flashes as a depth piece last season, didn't really show very much of that at all once he got moved to the starting lineup. Is he now going to be able to go back to the natural thing and as a depth piece and show? Like, the career trajectory for Dominique Robinson is still net positive, right? And maybe he doesn't project to ever be a starter in his career. We'll see. I think it's way too early to write that. The Bears defense as a whole had a lot of issues, but we're really going to be looking at Dominique Robinson and Travis Gibson, right? Do not overlook Travis Gibson in another contract season as well, and how he is going to perform. Can he get back to being that guy, more like that guy that had 7 sacks in the season, or is he going to be a guy that we saw last year? Now, was highly double-teamed last year. We don't expect him to be able to be double-teamed that much coming into the season, but you can't overlook the fact that Travis Gibson and his overall talent level is going to be a huge question mark for the Chicago Bears as well. The linebacking core, that's the next question. While on paper, we have a linebacking core of dogs. You look at Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards, Jack Sanborn, Noah Sewell, right? These are players that you project to be able to come in and be tough, right? We think that we're going to have that linebacking core that really helps propel us to being back to the monsters of the Midway that we once were at some point in time. You guys know I'm a defensive guy here, right? Defense, when the Bears defense is going, it's different. I love offense as well, but I love the defense. And is that team going to be able, is that linebacking core, I should say, going to be able to perform in a way that it really helps support both the pass rush and the pass coverage, right? And, Jack Sanborn, who probably would have had more sacks last season with a better overall defensive line. You got to look at how many times he did nearly get to the quarterback, led the league in tackles his time as a starter. But, all those things are cool. But are they going to be needed and meaningful now, as the Bears are shifting more towards trying to win, trying to push for that that wild card, trying to push for a playoff spot, right? Trying to win the North, being the kings of the North. These are all question marks heading in. And then we got another big one in, and I'm going to say this, our cornerback core. And not overall are they going to be productive. I do think that we're going to have a solid cornerback core, but when you look at the questions in the rookie and Tyreek Stevenson, the second-year man and Kyler Gordon, how are they going to step up in their first and second years respectively and really show what the future of the Chicago Bears pass coverage is going to be? That's what they have the chance to be, right? The Tyreek Stevenson is overall a dog, right? And I look at Tyreek Stevenson as a guy who has the mindset, the physical skill to be a game-changing quarterback at the next level in the NFL, and the Bears see it as well. He is going to be a starter day one. He's going to get picked on. How those growing pains going to look for him overall, right? And as he goes through those growing pains as a rookie, as every rookie goes through, no matter what the position is, you're going to go through those growing pains. You're going to go through making mistakes. How you learn from those mistakes? Are you making the same mistakes on week 1? Are you making the same mistakes on week 9 that you made on week 1, right? That's going to be how you measure that. Yes, there are going to be games where he probably gets blown up. There are going to probably be some games where he gets exposed. There are probably going to be some games where he gets caught out of position. Those things are going to happen. But how do you learn from those things? Tyreek Stevenson steps into a situation, whether right or wrong, whether on him or not, fair or unfair, he's going to be looked at. And he's going to and Bears fans, as knee-jerky as we can be, are going to try to make these early determinations on him based off his early struggles. And so how Tyreek Stevenson responds to that, I think, is going to be telling to the young man and overall in his career. And I think I have the utmost high expectations for Tyreek Stevenson. I think that the Bears do. I think that the fanship do. And I think that more so than any of us, I think Tyreek Stevenson has those high expectations and standards for himself. And that is what is potentially going to separate him to be a big difference maker for the Chicago Bears in his first year in the NFL. And then last but not least, Jaquan Brisker, the guy who led the team in sacks, right? The guy who is stepping into leadership, the guy whose vocality and everything has absolutely helped the Chicago Bears. He stepped up in a major way in his rookie year and showed himself to be a playmaker on that defensive side of the ball, always around in the right position, always around the ball. Just his ability to overall just be a playmaker on that defensive side, that is going to be the biggest question. Was it a flash in the pan, or is it going to be something that we're going to see is consistent? I have faith in it, but you can't help but to question what his impact is going to be in year 2. What is that development from him and Kyler Gordon, right? The first 2 picks from this new regime in the draft, How do they develop over their second years? Do they show a lot of the promise and flashes that we saw, more so from Kyler Gordon? Jaquan Brisker was extremely consistent in his rookie year, but we now need to see that growth and development even in those areas from Jaquan Brisker. Overall, those are some of the biggest questions, and we can't overlook either Alan Williams' growth as a defensive coordinator. I've said it on the offensive side. Every time I talk about Justin Fields and how important his growth is, I also talk about how important Luke Getsy's growth is as an offensive play caller and coordinator in this league. The same must be said about Alan Williams. Alan Williams and his growth and how he better utilizes more weapons and dogs on that defensive side of the ball is going to be just as important as Luke Getsy on the offensive side of the ball. Yes, we have Matt Eberflus as the head coach, who is a defensive guy, but you cannot overlook that Alan Williams has to step up as well as a defensive coordinator. Can't really hold too much against him last season. It is what it was. We had injuries. We traded away a lot of veteran pieces, but we are more likely than not coming into this season with what our defense is going to be. Rather the Bears add some more depth at that defensive line, or defensive end, whether they go after a veteran edge rusher or whatever. You know who the core of your defense is going to be now from OTAs on. How do you get the most out of that, right? How do you continue nurturing the growth of those rookies and second-year players as well, and getting them, and even getting more out of some of your veterans that are still fairly young, like a Jalen Johnson? Can you motivate this team, right? That's going to be the things that we also look for. You can't overlook how important the coordinators are in that area, and Matt Eberflus as well as a head coach. The Chicago Bears defense is our bread and butter. When people think about the Chicago Bears, guess what they think of? They think of some of the great defensive players, especially linebackers, that we've had over the history of this franchise. And the defense, whether right or wrong, is going to be something that a lot of fans always look at. We are the Chicago Bears. We are the monsters of the Midway, and hopefully we get back to look to earning that name next season in 2023. That's my time. Thank you for joining. Make sure you're following the show at Shy Bears Central on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the show, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related because of you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.